Kevin Love and the Cavaliers have started discussions on a buyout, and the sides could come to separation terms during the All-Star break. That was reported by Jason Lloyd and Shams Charania for The Athletic late last night. I was driving home from my night shift, and it was like 1 a.m. around that time, and I got that notification on my phone, and I almost couldn't believe it. But if you've seen what's happened over the last few weeks, you can. Love has been in Cleveland for 9 years now. He is the last remaining member of that 2016 finals winning Cavs team. You were reportedly formally requested to be bought out on Wednesday, and he's in the final year of his deal worth $31.2 million, and he hasn't played in the last 12 games. He's been out of the rotation. So, Mitch, it's not unexpected. It's unfortunate, and it just kind of signifies, you know what's funny? It signifies the end of an era, but it's not a bitter end because we've made this amazing turnaround to the point where this team can survive even with those pieces no longer with the organization.
Yeah, you're right. I think typically when you think end of an era, you think, oh, well, they're back to sucking, right? They're this team that can't compete. But here we have sped up the rebuild process, obviously. Kobe Altman, give him his flowers. He got into that 3-team deal to get us Jared Allen. We got Darius Garland. We drafted Evan Mobley. And then we traded for Donovan Mitchell. This rebuild has been sped up. Kevin Love, though, Mitch, holds a very big place in my heart because of the 2016 NBA Finals, because of the name and the expectations he helped bring to the Cavs when we acquired him for Andrew Wiggins back in the offseason before the 14-15 season. This is a player that I think, first off, he's a 5-time All-Star. He was an All-Star here in Cleveland. I think he was a player, Mitch, that I don't want to say we took for granted, but I think there's some people who took him for granted.
I agree with that.
I think that you saw how good he could be when playing alongside LeBron and Kyrie. And there's always going to be the what if. What if Kelly Olynyk does not rip his arm out in the first or second round of the 14-15 playoffs? Do the Cavs win the finals then against Golden State? Potentially. I mean, the Cavs just ran out of gas because Kyrie was hurt and missed the series after game one. Matthew Dellavedova was literally on fire that series, but had to go to the hospital to get IVs because he was cramping. So you just always wonder. But Mitch, this is also a guy that the Cavs signed to a huge extension when LeBron left. That was very eye-opening. Why are we doing this? And, you know, it was the Cavs saying, we're not going to rebuild. Well, it ended up looking like we had to rebuild. And, you know, Kevin became frustrated. There's still the many plays under John Beilein where he chucked the ball at Colin Sexton. He turned the ball over on purpose, and he was frustrated. And I believe it was partially because he was told it wasn't going to be a rebuild. At the same time, Mitch, he's a big part of the turnaround. Look back to last season. Last season was so much fun. He was fun. He was re-energized. He was playing big time minutes. And Kevin Love now, and look, something could still happen, but all signs point to him being bought out. I truly believe he hasn't officially been bought out yet because the Cavs are probably trying to A, agree on money, and then B, try to keep him away from the Eastern Conference. Obviously, reports are out there that Miami is the front runner to land him, which would be so scary because if you do play Miami, this is the Cleveland fan in me. What would happen if he's the one that hits a shot to either tie a series or take a 3-2 lead in the series after you release him? But even if that's the case, Mitch, I can't blame him. He has fallen out of the rotation. He was playing hurt, though. I'm still going to sit here and tell you he was trying to actually him deep way back and healthy. And I think he's kind of taking Kevin Love's spot. And Kevin Love's a liability on defense. I'm not going to sit here and act like he's not. But it sucks because it is an end of an era. It's the end of the greatest team you and I have seen in our lifetime in the 2016 Cavaliers. I saw this poster right here over my shoulder, and he's sitting there in the middle with all the players after they won the finals. He was a big advocate also off the floor for a lot of things, Mitch, mental health and things like that hold near and dear to my heart and other people. So it's bigger than basketball. But I loved Kevin Love. I loved him in Minnesota. I remember I don't play fantasy basketball a whole lot, but I'll never forget looking at him. This was a guy in Minnesota, Mitch. There was a time he was averaging 20 points and 20 rebounds. He was the 2020 machine.
Yep. And
he was never going to be that in Cleveland because in Minnesota, he was all by himself. But this guy, the 34 points in the first quarter against Portland, he was, what was it, 14 boards and then locking up the unanimous MVP in game 7 of the finals, who was also a plus 19 on the floor in game 7 of the 16 NBA finals. Plus 19. Like, that's huge. LeBron wasn't even a plus 19. It's just ultimately going to suck to see him go. But I wholeheartedly believe that he is a player that the Cavs are going to be able to bring back and honor at certain points in his retirement. And I ultimately believe that his jersey should be retired inside Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, because he also, Mitch, is in the top 5 or top 10 in certain categories in Cavaliers history with rebounds, 3-point shooting, whatever it may be. Kevin Love, I will always love, one of my favorite Cavaliers of all time. It sucks that we're here. It's not official yet. It certainly looks like it's going that way, but I obviously hold on hope that maybe something changes and he stays here. But all signs point to him being gone. I wish him nothing but the best. I think it'd be cool to see him go out to LA maybe and play with LeBron again. We'll see what happens, but I just really hope he doesn't go to Miami.
He's definitely one of my favorite Cavaliers for not just this era, but in all of the years I've been a fan of the team. And I'm going back to what you said. I think there were times that we kind of took him for granted because when he first came in, it was like, wait, what? You got Kyrie, you got LeBron, and then you got the 2020 guy. This is going to be amazing. And then it really just kind of became LeBron and Kyrie featuring Kevin Love and then kind of the rest of the squad. And the numbers took a dip when he made the transition from Minnesota to Cleveland. Last year in Minnesota, he was averaging 26 points, 12 and a half rebounds a game. Those went down to 16.4 and 9.7. His highest year with Cleveland in points was 19 in 2016 and 17. So it wasn't quite the heights that he reached in Minnesota when he was the only scoring option there. That being said, you listed off all the reasons why he was special. He showed you how talented he could be, how he could break out for these big scoring performances, how good of a spot shooter he could be from the 3-point line, how much of a paint presence he could be putting the ball back up in the basket or getting a key rebound and making an athletic play. I remember watching him lock down on Curry at the top of the key, wondering if he was going to fall off the tightrope, and he didn't. He stared the unanimous MVP, like you said, dead in the face, and Curry blinked first. Maybe 9 other times out of 10, Curry would have him blink first, but that was the one moment that he stepped up. And he had a number of key plays around the end of that finals game too. But he was able to share in the franchise's greatest moment. And I'm extremely lucky to have been able to watch him over these years and see him embrace the city and community. Because even though, like you said, he had a bit of a stretch there where I think it was April of 2 years ago, which is crazy, that he was firing the ball at teammates. He just looked like he was completely done. And granted, it took the team getting good again for him to be like, all right, I'm back on board. But he could have easily just checked out of here after the end of that first contract. And he was able to stay behind, do a lot of good for the community. You mentioned that Players Tribune article of his that was kind of eye-opening at the time and really kind of opened the floodgates to other athletes, hopefully and potentially getting help. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about Kevin Love. I know he'll be inducted into Springfield soon in a couple of years from now. We'll be at his jersey retirement ceremony. And I hope that people, when they look back on the era of Cavaliers basketball from 2014 through, let's say, 2018, you remember he could play. The guy may have not have been LeBron, may not have been peak Kyrie for the Cavs. Dude could play. And I hope that's the biggest message people take away from this discussion.